Good Thursday evening, everyone, and welcome back to the channel. My name is Charlie, and we've got a lot to go over today. I'm actually very excited to make this video for you. This morning was kind of a bummer, right? For some of these areas, but we're ticking south, and I mean that. The latest gyro has started to tick south ever so slightly. It was like 30 miles, right? In comparison to its 250 mile marathon north, it doesn't matter. It stopped ticking north and it's almost starting to tick south again. So we're going to go over that among a lot of other things today and look into some impacts as we're getting closer to this. And for areas further west, this is just right at your doorstep. So we're going to start this off on this screen you see here. So we're going to go over the latest watches, warnings, and advisories. Areas you see in pink are winter storm warnings. This is a huge difference from this morning. We only had these right in here this morning, and it has changed very obviously a lot. So just to make sure here, I will reload this page. So yeah, well, this is the latest and greatest. So these areas in blue you see extending up here into the northeast, all the way down into the Carolinas, Georgia, and then we have up under these winter storm warnings all the way back here into New Mexico. Those are what are they? These would be winter storm watches. So these aren't warnings yet, winter storm watches. And this is a slightly different shade up here. These are like extreme cold watches. Those are underneath this. It's hard to tell on this map. They're pretty much everywhere under here. So that's the latest and greatest. And you might see this purple. This right here, these are ice storm warnings. I'm glad to see these are up because I think they needed to be. So this is a big deal. I'm glad these are up. And I think we're going to see an expansion of these kind of back in here. That's our main area. And then as we get close to this event, I think we might see some more up in this region here. Just a guess, right? That's the latest and greatest from the National Weather Service when it comes to warnings. So let's move on to our impacts here. So this is the Winter Storm Severity Index from the Weather Prediction Center. This is the professionals here. We have a scale at the bottom. It goes from no impacts to extreme impacts, right? Only a few different things in here, right? So in this dark red color you see, this is major impacts. And they define this as, heavy impacts to travel and infrastructure, and then extreme would be just a step above, just more prolonged impacts here. So this is the central US here, and we have a broad area of at least moderate impacts in areas, you can see them here in Texas and Oklahoma, Kansas, Missouri here, Arkansas and Oklahoma have major impacts listed here. And then a very large area, DFW, for example, is now in and around moderate to major. This would be for more of a mix as opposed to just snow, and we have a very broad minor risk around this entire thing. This is a tick south, or not a tick south, this is looking further to the south. So we have an area of reds showing up here. A lot of this is for ice, and then, yes, this goes back to San Angelo and Abilene, Texas area, as far as I know. And then, pretty sharp cutoff to the south in some of these areas, but you even see a little bit of a purple showing up here. That would be extreme impacts. Don't get hyper focused on exactly where these lines stop. You might see little blobs of red like scattered. There's even blobs of red over here, actually, if you see them. So don't worry too much about this, but this is real, guys. We're right out in front of this, and the professionals are seeing it too. And then we, if I can move it here, we move it to the east. So this is kind of picking up on the rest of our risk area. We see, we'll start outwards and move in. We have minor risk as far north as the Ohio Valley, in the northern 2/3 of Illinois, Indiana, and Ohio here, as well as Pennsylvania in the southern half, the northern areas of West Virginia. And then we transition to a large moderate risk areas just further south. Cincinnati, Ohio's in there. The entire state of Kentucky is at least moderate or greater. And then all of Virginia, just about, is moderate or greater, except for some areas. And we look further to south. This is the rest of the other graphic we were looking at here, just kind of nose of major impacts being listed here, as well as some major to extreme impacts being listed here in the mountains of Georgia and North and South Carolina. So we kind of see this secondary extension here of at least moderate impacts or greater, and this is due to ice. And we'll go over that in today's video. We got a lot of graphics to show you, so let's dive in that. So we're going to look at our global model guidance first, just the GFS and Euro, just to keep it simple. And so yeah, let's get into this. This is getting into Friday afternoon. You notice how that says 33 hours ahead of us? It's crazy. And here we go. And it's the same tune as we've been hearing, right? Except further south. Let me check. I'm going to reload this page just to make sure the 18Z is not running. Not on this site. Okay, that's fine. I don't know why it turned off, but we're going to turn it back on. Here we go. So let's get this out here a little bit more. So we get this storm going in the overnight hours. This would be midnight Saturday, right? We have freezing rain across all of the Red River Valley into southern Arkansas, as well as back to Lubbock, Odessa, Texas, Abilene, Texas, freezing rain. Dallas is snowing at this time, but you might have, yeah, well, you switch. So don't worry too much about that. If you want to see some impacts, let's be honest, nobody's saying that. But yeah, ignore that. A large shield of snow to the north, all the way up into Nebraska, and it starts to move on, and then it really just expands out, right? We have this all the way over into the Virginias. They're not quite in frame here. We'll move into the eastern U.S. later in this video. I'm going to cover the central U.S. first, and then we'll move east. So we have snow in Albuquerque, New Mexico, and we have it all the way back over here into the Virginias, up through the Ohio Valley. It's snowing over the Great Lakes, and then a very expansive area of freezing rain to the south of that. And northern Arkansas, southern Missouri seems to be about where the line is. And notice how, like in Tennessee, in the northern areas, as well, really most of the western part of the state, you started to snow. The Euro was not showing that a couple runs ago, so it has ticked south indeed. But you do switch, and I think that has been set in stone almost, that you're going to switch to something later, but you do start as snow, so that's a change. And you know, we move this out, and this is a huge winter storm. We've been saying this for a long time. This is getting into midnight on Sunday, so about 24 hours later, winter weather has been ongoing in a lot of these areas for near 24 hours at this point. It's still snowing in Albuquerque. It's snowing all the way up through the southern and central plains, through the Ohio Valley, and up into the Great Lakes. Now's a good time to mention, it's a good idea to know where you are on a map. So if that means that you pull out your phone and open Google Maps or Apple Maps, whatever you got in front of you, it will auto center itself on your location, and you can just zoom out. So know where you are on a map. It's very helpful because I can't list all of these cities in any reasonable time. So, you know, I can just list states in general. Texas is going to be a big, kind of a deciding line here. The line will change here. I mean, the line will start off something like this. And that's like snow to the north, freezing rain, and then normal rain. And then they kind of orient differently. So we have more of this, you know, north-south kind of oriented line here, regardless of that. And we move this on. This is getting into midnight Sunday. So we'll take this few more frames, getting into Sunday morning. It'll be like 6 a.m. Central Time. And then just still a lot of snow ongoing in the Ohio Valley and areas of the lower Midwest, as well as the Central Plains, all the way back down. It's still snowing in like Oklahoma City, for example, as well as just a nasty ice and freezing rain event down here in areas of the Deep South, up through the Cumberland Plateau into Kentucky. With what is still a relatively aggressive warm nose, I do feel like it's a little bit better, a little bit more accurate here. Kind of just, you can see this extension of rain. And that's because our low is down here and it's throwing moisture from the Gulf. So these details will change, but that's the latest. And like I said, we're going to focus on the central U.S. first. We're going to stop this here and then switch to the GFS. What is it going to show us? So this is nope, let's do this right. This is the 18Z. This is from today. Now I had a really old run pulled up there. This is the latest run from the GFS here. So it's a very similar story, except per usual, the GFS is throwing more sleet on your map, and that shows up in this kind of purple color you see here. I think the GFS has a good handle on sleet, except it overdoes it. I don't think the Euro does sleet nearly as much as there will be sleet, so we kind of have to meet in the middle, right? We have the Red River Valley still is on the line here where you're going to get some sort of mixing as opposed to just pure snow. But this line is definitely further south on the GFS as it has been. It's generally the northern half of Arkansas as opposed to the northern fifth. Exact fractions are not important. But we get snow not quite as far north. I think this is realistic. Our short range model guidance looks similar to this. And, freezing rain and sleet down in Dallas over to Shreveport, Abilene, Odessa, Wichita Falls, and then drops off further south. You go into rain. Let's just take this out to Saturday evening. The GFS has been doing this. I don't know exactly how this is. We got an area over here that's doing a whole lot. And then you have this. So you have like two areas, and it leaves like Missouri and Arkansas and a lot of Louisiana alone for a little bit, right? You're like, what is this? I don't really know what this is, actually. I won't lie to you. And it kind of gets going again, and it gets bigger. So this is a similar look to Sunday as the Euro is, but this is a second hit in a lot of these areas. So, Little Rock down to Dallas is on the line here. Memphis is freezing rain and sleet. And then the northern half along the Ohio River and the Ohio River Valley, snow. Most models show snow. And so we'll leave it here. Now we're in range now, so we're gonna start looking at some short range model guidance. This is the latest HRRR model. So I started this off Friday morning. So we're gonna get going some light snow flurries and freezing rain showers down here in Oklahoma. We'll move this south in a minute, and then let's get here. This would be midnight. Okay, this is Saturday at midnight, and we have an area of very, very heavy snow. Oklahoma City points north. Little Rock is really close on this run, but see how this kind of resembles the GFS in a way. It's a more stout little push of snow as opposed to being really wide and flat. So I kind of like that. We have sleet showing up here in purple. I think the HRRR does really well showing both freezing rain and sleet. And we move this on in time, and it starts to move out. So, areas of northern Arkansas, southern Missouri are kind of a jackpot area, as they are in most model guidance. And you stay snow almost the whole time except for some mixing. HRRR only goes out 48 hours on this run, which is as far as it goes out. So we don't get to see all of the event, especially at areas further east. So there's that. Freezing rain down near DFW. And, Oklahoma City switches to sleet, but those details can be ironed out later. What about the NAM? This is the 3-kilometer NAM. I'm going to reload the page so that there we go. So we get into Friday morning here, and light snow in, Kansas and Nebraska, southern South Dakota. And then the NAM has a lot more when it comes to sleet, and it pushes the sleet snow line a little bit further north. This could be true. This is about midnight on Saturday, and so it's more aggressive with keeping this sleet in areas of northern Arkansas. I can see this happening. Our global model guidance kind of shows this, but it's just a little bit warmer and more amplified on the NAM. And the NAM at this range is okay, but it's not great. So just kind of take this with a grain of salt. There's minimal freezing rain showing up here in this sector. And it does something similar to the GFS, where there's a resurgence of moisture across the central areas of the U.S. later. So enough yapping about that. Let's show you quickly what the RRFSA shows. Let it reload here, and it'll go back down. Here we go. Friday morning, very similar tune, except for like some snow squalls showing up here. I didn't see this earlier in Kansas and Oklahoma, so that could be real. And then it's kind of similar to the HRRR, and then it shows a little bit of everything, and I think it has a decent handle on the locations of these. And it moves on out. We have more hours here. So here's this resurgence of moisture. It looks almost the same twice. So That's interesting, but our lines are in pretty similar places. But with this second hit, areas of central and southern Texas get hit a lot harder with mixed precipitation. Let's move this down to the south and make quicker work of it here. So, we get into the majority of this event starting overnight hours on Friday. And you can see we already covered areas to the north, so we start to see some freezing rain and sleet in Texas, but it's more sporadic. It's really over Arkansas, Missouri, and Mississippi that we're seeing more of the precipitation. And we're also seeing some in Louisiana. So these details will be ironed out later. And I know this is probably frustrating to you guys who live out here. How do you not know? Because there's been shifts, guys. And I hope that you guys have some sympathy for your local meteorologist. I understand you guys being frustrated with them. They're frustrated too. I'm frustrated. I'm done talking about this event, but we still have to cover it, and we still have a few days to talk about it. So we got to just gear up for it. But that's the last frame of the HRRR right there. NAM 3K right here is going to reload, and then we're going to pull it out here. So here we go. A lot more sleet, and it goes out about 18 more hours than the HRRR does. And we see this resurgence of moisture manifesting itself mostly as sleet in areas of central Texas all the way up through central Arkansas. It's kind of an axis of sleet here. I think this is overdoing sleet, kind of like the GFS is. I think actually they have similar microphysics, so who knows, that could be why. But I don't really necessarily buy this much sleet, but the overall solution isn't too crazy in either direction, although I think there'll be more freezing rain than this in areas of, say, Mississippi and Louisiana. This is a lot more sporadic than I think it will be. The RRFSA, sorry. It's going to reload here, and here we go. We get out, and I think it has a pretty good handle on some of these areas. DFW, you kind of stay rain the whole time. This I don't buy necessarily until you look here. So if you notice, I'm going to do it here. I hate interrupting flow, but I'm going to do it. Notice how there's winter storm warnings down in all of these areas pretty much. I'll go ahead and tell you right now that the National Weather Service would not have been issuing these things if a solution like this were not being modeled. This tells me that that RRFSA is onto something. I think it does really well handling a sleet corridor as well as freezing rain and snow. Before any of you guys yell at me and say you didn't show us any graphics for what these specific 3 short-range models show us for the totals here, that's for tomorrow morning and then onwards, because these are going to shift around some and we need to wait a little bit longer, but we're close. Let's move to the eastern U.S. A lot of my viewers are in this area. I'm going to look at the Euro first, as expected. Move this out here. So this is getting into the overnight hours on Friday into our Saturday into Sunday and the early morning hours. Very, very aggressive freezing rain event in this cold air damming region here. Notice how Atlanta and Augusta, you're now in this on the Euro model. So you may switch to rain, but ignore that fact. You guys were left behind by this freezing rain on the Euro just a few runs ago. So if you live in Atlanta and down to Augusta and Columbia, do not think for a second that you're out of this event. You might be, but we don't know that yet. So don't return all your stuff to the store and kick back and relax and think, we'll be all right. Don't do that yet. Not time for that. And we move this on here. And so the Euro has stopped completely eroding the CAD, cold air damming. I think it's fixing itself because it was eroding this cold air damming, this kind of wedge of cold air across the Carolinas completely as we get into Sunday afternoon. Now, it does erode it some, but there's still freezing rain falling in Charlotte before switching to some rain. I think this is a pretty good handle. See, you can see this low. That's a 998 low over the Southern Alps. And that would get some wind going. There's another part of this event that's not being talked about enough, I don't think, is the fact that we're going to get a lot of freezing rain in like Atlanta to Charlotte on the I-85 corridor, as well as back in areas between, say, Shreveport and Cleveland, Mississippi. There are 2 cities on this map here. There's like multiple corridors here. You can see it really showing up here. There's our 2 areas. I honestly think with the low right in the middle, we're going to have winds that could really get going here, the 30s or 40s when it comes to gusts. And that could be even worse. We have all of this weight on the trees. They're just going to blow right over, guys. And I'm worried about that for some of these areas. But not to get caught up in the details here. I think the Euro has fixed itself some. I think it's come back to reality a little bit. Let's look areas a little bit further north. Just take this event out. So this is getting into Sunday morning is when this really gets going across these regions. The Ohio Valley as well as the Ohio River Valley here really just kind of, actually this might be the same thing now that I think about it. Either way, you guys can tell me in the comments. So we have, area of heavy snow getting up into areas of the Northeast. Pennsylvania, the entire state is snowed. I hope you guys are happy about this because I know there are areas in Pennsylvania that don't get it all the time. You might mix in some areas, but you tick south a little bit. West Virginia in the southern half is a mix, and eventually you might switch to rain. And then this kind of moves on to the north, giving a nice event to the Northeast. We'll go over the snow graphics later from our global model guidance, but very good event for you guys. What about the GFS? So the GFS, it's kind of similar. It really is. We're getting into Saturday afternoon here. This would be about 7 p.m., really getting going across areas of the Carolinas and Georgia, as well as Tennessee, and Eastern Tennessee, I'll add. And it's very similar. This look right here looks very similar to the Euro in the sense that Atlanta to Augusta to Columbia are included. So I think what we're going to end up seeing is that the Euro and GFS meet in the middle because they were both kind of outliers in their positioning. I think the Euro is going to tick south, the GFS is going to stay similar or tick north. So they're going to meet in the middle. So either way, here is Sunday morning, and we see our warm nose down here in the deep south, getting up into near Nashville, and then very aggressive cold air damming here. There was one run of the GFS where it entirely eroded this cold air damming. I didn't want to see that at all, and I think it fixed itself in this run as far as I know. This is the 18Z. It's the latest of what we have. And we move this on out. Yeah, it's very similar to the Euro. It doesn't completely erode it. That's realistic to me. We might switch to rain for a couple of hours maybe, and it could be heavy, but a few degrees difference and all this little band you see from Greenville to Augusta here of just normal rain could be freezing rain or even snow. So don't worry too much about the specifics. This is also global model guidance, and we're getting to the point where you stop looking at it, but not quite. Not for areas further east. And just a brief look at our friends, our neighbors further to the north. This event gets going, getting into the overnight hours Sunday into the morning. Very, very similar look. Almost looks exactly the same. So the areas of the Northeast, you're a lot for snow. A lot of these areas. We'll go over them later. So let's look at our short range model guidance. I'm going to reload this because Pivotal Weather hates being preloaded. So here we go. This is... Oh, I should not have pulled this up. I apologize. Well, we'll look at the end. So this is the end of the run. And when is this valid at? This is Saturday afternoon. So... You know what? Just ignore this. We already kind of saw this. But it's getting up into the Ohio River Valley here. Areas of Indiana and Illinois, as well as the northern half of Tennessee and Kentucky. Here we go. Ignore that. That's my bad. This is the NAM 3K. Goes out a little bit further. And what is it going to show us? So it doesn't take us through the event. But it's closer. So we get an area here. Getting towards midnight. This is midnight and 1 a.m. on Sunday. We get areas of heavy sleet falling in this cold air damming region from Atlanta to Charlotte up through, Raleigh, Durham, and then near like Danville, Virginia, southern quarter or so of Virginia getting sleet on this. And that's all we have. Freezing rain is mixing in areas. I don't think the NAM has the best handle on where these precipitation types are, but who knows? Could be right. And then we look very briefly at the RRFSA model. When it finishes, here we go. This might take us through the event. I think, honestly, the RRFSA has a really good handle on this, except for the snow. The snow will be more amplified than this. I really do think. But it keeps this freezing rain going. And then we switch. There's more freezing rain. There's that low, 1,008 millibar low in Alabama, north of Birmingham. it kind of erodes the CAD, but not really. There's still enough cold air there. I think this is a very good solution. Look at how amplified this snow is now. Goodness, guys. But you're having mixing issues as far north as the Ohio River. I don't think that's necessarily going to happen. I think in that sense, the RRFSA is too amplified and too warm, but at the same time, temperature-wise, everywhere else, it's pretty good. So you will start as rain in some of these areas further south, and you'll start as snow in some of these areas further north before mixing. Details to follow. Not a forecast yet. So we're going to briefly look at the latest Euro ensemble for our snow. Not going to spend a whole lot of time on this because this is, this is so close to us. There's a few highlighted areas here. Along the Ohio River, Cincinnati, down through southern areas of Indiana and Illinois and northern Kentucky. We have Oklahoma City back through Frederickton, Oklahoma, all the way over to, I don't know cities in this region necessarily, but southern Arkansas, northern Arkansas, southern Missouri. And then we have, the rich get richer kind of thing going on up here. The entire state of Pennsylvania gets like at least 10 inches of snow on this run. So I kind of believe it, to be honest with you. And yeah, so that's all we're going to look at for this. Now we're going to get into some more zoomed in graphics. We're going to go over these pretty quick. This is the Euro. We have the GFS as well. So this is from this morning. This is through the event. So areas you see in this pink kind of purple color are 6 inches or more, and then this like magenta color is a foot or more on this site. All snow graphics are going to look the same here. You can see it down here if you don't believe me, but you probably do. And we see northern. This is the Euro, operational Euro, by the way. This is the northern areas of Arkansas, southern Missouri. You get hit pretty good here. And Oklahoma City with 13 inches. This also, I don't have access. You see them over here. The Kuchera snow ratio is a higher ratio. What this means, 10 to 1, is you get 10 inches of snow for every 1 inch of liquid precipitation that fell. So let's say an inch of rain falls during a thunderstorm. That would have equaled 10 inches of snow. That's a high ratio. We may be seeing ratios of like 15 to 1 in some of these regions. Because the atmosphere will line up right. We'll have enough moisture in a super saturated atmosphere where we could get these really high ratios. So these totals may be underdone. Can't believe I'm saying that in some of these regions, right? So there's that. Now, let me pull this back a little bit. Because you notice how there was an extension down here? That's not going to happen through this event. Who knows what else is out there, guys? This is through the event only. So yeah, you see our 6 inches going off. And then we move east where this graphic left off, and we see, yeah, this is an area of over a foot along the Ohio River and over like 14 inches just south of the Ohio, like Cincinnati, with 14 inches here. Crazy work, isn't it? And then we see move up here. And these areas of a foot or more are very expansive, and the 6 inches or more are huge. Up into the northeast. Speaking of you guys, here you guys are. West Virginia, here is that warm nose being modeled here off the Euro. That line was not where I wanted it. There's that warm nose kind of spiking up. This is the far northern extent of it, but it's still being modeled here. And then we have lake effect snow. That's what that little enhanced area is. But all of the northeast, I mean, Long Island with 9 to 11 inches, depending on exactly where you are. Cape Cod, I mean, that's over a foot. So this is a lot of snow. Again, know where you are on a map. It's very helpful because I can't name these places, especially when they're not listed for me here. So what do we have when it comes to the GFS? This is from the latest run. Really highlights northern Arkansas for that does indeed say 18 inches, nearly 19 inches in some regions. I don't think we're going to get that. But again, this is also the 10 to 1 SLR, the snow liquid ratio, and it could be higher. So technically the GFS, well, let me be a normal person and show it to you because they don't make you pay for it here. So let me bring this out. Exactly. So I thought so. And here we have 22 inches being modeled in a little corridor here on the Oklahoma and Arkansas border. Don't focus too much on details and even exactly where this line is. Say you live in far northern Kansas and you're thinking, dang it, we missed out. Not necessarily. It's an operational run, but all of almost the entire state, except for some counties of Oklahoma is good for like 6 inches plus, really 8 inches plus. Same for Kansas. But know where you are on a map. It's very helpful. We move this east. Again, some of these same areas, although the GFS is, as we expect, further south. So we have this axis of heavier snow a little bit further south. Like all of West Virginia really gets hit well with this, and so does Kentucky. And this continues off to the northeast, and it still gets Cape Cod pretty good. And one more, we can go up here, look at the northeast, and impressive totals, guys. So we're going to get into, if you're still with us, congratulations. But anyway, we're going to get into the latest GFS model, and we're going to look at our freezing rain. So I'm not going to look at much of any other model when it comes to freezing rain, because I think it has a pretty good handle on it. And we might switch to the RRFSA here, but we have two graphics to show you. This is the easternmost, or westernmost, sorry. It's a lot more sporadic in Texas, but there are areas here that could get hit pretty hard. And then we have the real show. This is where we have some ice storm warnings, although based on this, they need to issue them further south. Operational run, don't think that this is exactly gospel here. And, we have an obviously enhanced area of freezing rain totals of, 1 to as much as 2.5 inches. And some of these regions of Shreveport is just up here. So you kind of get missed. But central Louisiana up through Jackson, Mississippi gets hit very hard with this freezing rain. And we move it east, and crippling. Same as it was over there. I didn't use that word over there. I meant to. You can see our warm nose right here pushing north, and you can also see our CAD over here pushing south. Either way, we have over 1 inch totals in a very broad area here, and that's why ultimately I do think we're going to get some ice storm warnings issued over here. I think it's kind of inevitable. It'll just come down to whether they're just for these regions or whether they're for the entire region here or not. But again, if you live, that is a 2-inch signal here in Atlanta. Augusta is, I believe, down in here. That does say about an inch. And then Athens at 1 3/4. Columbia drops off, but you guys are not done with this. Orangeburg down here in this region, still dealing with impactful totals here for sure. All the way up through Fayetteville. This was kind of the region where people were thinking this line right here. Are we going to get anything issued further south? We kind of got winter storm watches issued exactly in here today. Maybe they're onto something. I think the NWS likes the GFS in a lot of these scenarios, and I don't blame them. I believe this too. So, just for what it's worth, I clicked on the wrong thing. I am going to use the latest RRFSA and show you what it shows, because it has a decent handle. Let's click off of that. It's pretty similar, guys, except it's a little bit more aggressive with the warm nose. Either way, Atlanta, you're still closer, but you're in it. Athens, you're in it. Augusta, you're in it. And then we have, an even more expansive area of crippling totals here in the Carolinas, mainly North Carolina and Virginia being targeted with this one, but upstate South Carolina hit pretty hard. Southern Apps get hit pretty hard, as well as Columbia and areas points south. But that's a short range model for you. I will move this just because I showed you this region. Sorry, I done that one other time. I'll show you back over here as well. As soon as it loads in, drum roll, here we go. So yeah, this is kind of what we were thinking. This lines up more with where the ice storm warnings are right now. I think we'll get extensions to these, but this is very aggressive in southern Arkansas here. And I don't even think it's necessarily over aggressive. Memphis, Tennessee is crippled by this. It's not a forecast yet. Speaking of that, let's look at some of these graphics. So these are officially issued from the National Weather Service. This is go time, guys, for a lot of... Look out here, for example. Our color scale goes up to 2 inches or more in this really dark purple. We don't have those yet. There might be areas sporadic where we get that. I don't expect to see widespread areas of 2 inches like the models are showing. But Here's our warm nose, right? And then just to the east of it, we have our cab. So kind of equal forces, if you will. I can't find a graphic that shows any further west than this. So if you live, say, in here, I believe that these totals are similar. But I can't find it. I'll look for it if I can tomorrow. But we have over an inch being expected from people like me and you, people with actual functional brains, not a computer. They're calling for this, and this would be Greenville, Mississippi, Grenada, Tupelo, Mississippi are included in this. Clarksdale is just outside of the heaviest. Memphis is at a quarter of an inch. I think you guys might go up with some of this. They might be a little bit more conservative over here in Memphis because there's some models that show you getting snow at the beginning. That's possible. I won't hate on them for that. But, we see a very aggressive warm nose in Alabama. That's why actually there are some winter weather advisories kind of a step below in these regions because they're not quite sure yet. We may get upgrades. Don't know. And then here is the latest for a little bit further east. So the Carolinas and northern Georgia. We do have over inch totals in some of these regions. And over half an inch. Well, sorry, this is a similar color scale, not exactly the same. There's a little tiny 1 inch there. The purple in general you see is 3/4 of an inch or more. In this kind of dark, almost burgundy color here, we see that's half an inch or more. And you can see the actual points listed here. We almost have a secondary area showing up here in areas of Virginia. I mean, I don't know exactly where this will set up, and it's a big deal. Now, I wanted to show you this because I live here. This is our high end as of now, and this is through Sunday evening. I think most of the event will be done by now. So this is high end. This is 1 in 10 chance of happening. I think these totals will go up in here, and I think we might see totals that look more like this in our expected. Just my personal opinion. And it's exactly why I told you Atlanta to Athens, Columbia. Don't give up on this yet. Don't pack your stuff up and send it back to the store. Not yet. Over an inch in some of these areas of the I-85 corridor. It's exactly the I-85 corridor. Literally goes right through the middle of it. Charlotte to Atlanta with some of the heaviest of this right over my neck of the woods, as well as winds. I don't even know if I want to show this to you. This is a 90% chance this is going to happen. This is really conservative. It's supposed to be conservative, but I don't believe this in the slightest. I don't think that's even really an option. I think this is pretty good, and we might see this tick north. I'm going to leave this pulled up, and so I can just reload it tomorrow. I don't have to find it. Here is our range. So I'm going to click this and then click on this. So notice how in Anderson, for example, that's near where I live, 0.3 to as much as nearly 8. That's a big difference for freezing rain. 0.3 is more manageable. 0.8 is more destructive. That's not really a range that you're like, just a small range. It's not. It's really hard to see some of these numbers, but that in like Greensboro, for example, that's 0.09 to 0.77. That's a huge jump. So we have a lot to figure out with the ice. Things will change. We have a few more days, but it's looking just prime. And then I think this is the last thing I have to show you. So this is the National Weather Service. This is what they're calling for temperature-wise. So this is Sunday let's go back a day. Saturday's maximum temperatures. You can see for areas further to the west, very cold temperatures. This is maximum temperatures. I mean, that's really, really cold in, say, Oklahoma for maximum temperatures. Because it's Arctic air spilling down here. This is the freezing line, by the way. And then, so we move this out. Let's click off of this, close Epic Pen. And then we move to the minimum temperatures. They're just barely below. And then, what about Sunday's maximum temperatures? I'm not going to zoom in. I just want to take a broad look. Here's our warm nose being modeled here and our cold air damming. This is maximum temperatures that are expected. And then, we have cold Arctic air spilling in behind the front. What about our temperatures? This is really what I pulled this up to show you. Sunday night temperatures. these are negative temperatures because there's expected snowpack in some of these areas and sleet pack as well as ice. So -3 in Oklahoma City, -5 near Tulsa. And then we have single digits to just about 10 degrees, this is Fahrenheit, in northern Texas. And there's our front right there, crossing through the Carolinas. So Tuesday, not that. I just clicked on that. So there's that. What about Monday's maximum temperature? I think this is being partially overdone in some of these regions because they're not quite sure where some of the snowpack will be. I think areas where we get more sleet here, let's redo that line. I think here, areas further north will be colder because you got snow and sleet on the ground. But what about our minimum temperatures? These are really cold. Now, some of these aren't negative, but there's more widespread teens and maybe single digits and higher elevations out here. The only reason this is so bad, I mean, no one really wants it to be 20 degrees outside. That's not enjoyable. But the reason I bring this up is a lot of these areas won't have power. So in the two favorable regions for freezing rain and sleet, which I'm going to circle right now to the best of my ability. Right here is one. The circle is not exact. And right here is one. Again, circle's not exact. If we're getting temperatures this low, that means everything's going to freeze. So it means a few things. You know, any ice you have on your lines that didn't fall is going to stay there. And then your roads are going to be an absolute mess. This is going to make it difficult for power crews to come out and fix your power. This has long-term effects on your infrastructure, among other things. So keep this in mind. More people will start talking about this as we get closer, as it becomes more apparent that we have really frigid air making its way into some of these areas just behind this for a few days. So it's brutally cold and you don't even have power. I highly recommend you have some way to keep warm. I don't just get to this event and say, we'll figure it out. Don't try to travel. Don't put your generator indoors. Gasoline, I mean. Well, in fact, any kind of generator. Don't put it indoors. They're all gasoline, let's be honest. And the reason I say that, some people, I'm not going to say they're stupid, some people are unaware enough to put a generator inside and think that the exhaust gases don't affect their health. It does. People die from that. Don't do that. Don't put a generator even in your garage, because those can seep in under doors. And over time, you get carbon monoxide poisoning and you die from it. Don't do that. If you have a generator, put it outside. Use it correctly. Use it safely. And if at all possible, if you don't have a generator and you don't have a wood-burning stove that you can use to keep warm, I know it's expensive. And I know I'm a kid, right? I'm 16. I'm getting a job soon, but I don't currently even have a job. You might be looking at me thinking, what are you telling me, that I should go get a hotel? I am telling you should go get a hotel. Because if your alternative is that you are, number one, you're miserable, but your life is at risk because it's so cold in some of these regions and you don't have power, it's indeed worth it to go pay extra for something. Please stay safe during this. Don't travel during this. That's all I have for you. I'll be back tomorrow morning. So I will see you in the next one.